Welcome to Leveraging Inspiration, the Inspired Patent Podcast, where we explore the world of innovation, creativity, and intellectual property. I'm your host, Wayne Carroll, and I'm joined today by Bob Sewell. And we're excited to bring you insights and stories from inventors, entrepreneurs, and experts in the field. Bob, I heard a story a few years ago of a care worker for an elderly person. I think care workers are amazing and great. There's always that 1% to 5% that are just bad people. And this care worker, the young person, kept telling the old person, "Oh, my life's so hard. I need a car." And they said, "Oh, I'll give you my car." Their only assets, a car and a bank account, and they give away the car, and then they pass away. Does that actually happen?
Oh, it happens all the time. It's really pathetic. We call that financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. And what happens is when you become older, your thought processes slow down generally, not everyone's, but many. And about a third of us will experience dementia. And it comes in greater or lesser degrees, the dementia. That's just that cognitive impairment. And you can't resist people's efforts at times. Some people become obstinate and say no to everything, but certain people, they say yes to everything. Anyone who's ever done any caretaking knows this. I had my mom, she would say yes to me on everything and no to my wife on everything. And it was quite challenging, but it's a
Yeah.
real thing, and we need to pay attention to that. As a society, we're not doing a great job.
Okay. One of the reasons I bring that up is the estate planning, even if you do it right, you need to put in protections for what could go wrong. And that's one of the things that could go wrong. And you might do everything you can, and you still might need to go to court to fix somebody being a bad actor. It's a form of elder abuse.
That's exactly right. When you are competent, you should do your estate planning. Not when you think you're going to die. It's when you're competent, when you're strong, when your mind is firm. When you've waited too long, your estate plan isn't going to be as good. Theoretically, if we do it in advance, we'll have a better result. We'll be more firm. I'm working with an estate where the guy was competent. He wrote out, "I want you to consult with this person on this issue and this person on this issue." He had his list of professionals, and he was in the habit of using professionals to make changes to estate plan and make his financial decisions. And then suddenly, and while he's suffering from an infirm mind, he's making estate planning decisions without his professionals. Why was that? It's pretty obvious what happened. He was influenced.
So the listeners of this podcast are business owners. They have small to medium-sized businesses, and one of their big assets is their business itself. Is there anything special that they need to do to prepare?
When you're looking at passing your business assets, the first, just from a very high level perspective, you need to look at who's going to manage that asset. So if you have a business and you have no succession plan for that business, what's going to happen when you pass? You could lose the business. The business could disappear. And I've seen that happen where highly successful business ran by one guy who did all the magic. He kept the team together. He was everything to the business. He had a team of 20 workers, but somehow he was the business. He had no clear succession plan, and he didn't have trusted people around him. And when he died, the business died with him. And that's a frustrating thing, because if you're not able to continue that business, you lose a lot of value. The value becomes just hard assets rather than the ongoing book of business or the goodwill. If the goodwill dies with you, if the ongoing revenue dies with you, you lose a lot of value. So from a very high level perspective, you need to have a good succession plan. And then as part of that plan, you got to think, how am I going to pass title? And that issue can get a little sticky, especially if you have multiple heirs. For example, I have 4 heirs, and One of them is going to be my succession plan. And that one heir I've been training, and the rest of them are doctors and lawyers and architects, whatever. They're not slouches, but I have one heir that's been with me by my side, training in my plumbing business.
Right.
If I pass my business on to four heirs, that business is going to struggle because three heirs could vote out the fourth. And that
Right.
fourth is the one who's running it. So we got to think about how we're going to pass the title, how we're going to compensate the other individuals if we want them to share it equally, and things like this.
Okay. And that can also come up with just simple assets like a cabin. You have a cabin that's really well outfitted, great for hunting, family gathering. You pass it on to four kids all together, and now they all have to decide what to do with it all
Oh, yeah.
together.
I love the family cabin disaster. It happens all the time. And they have this beloved family cabin, and maybe it was owned by grandpa and it was passed down to one son, and that son has six kids, and they want this cabin to remain in the family, except there's one or two of the six kids who are responsible, and they're the ones who get stuck paying the taxes. And
Yeah.
those two were the only ones who have real income, and so they're the ones who do the maintenance and upkeep. And so when they want to go use it, the cabin's a disaster. It's been trashed by the other two who've been having frat parties, things like this. The family cabin disaster is incredibly problematic, and it's really simple. You get an LLC and an operating agreement, you put the cabin inside it. But we got to think through these things. Because, and as a caring parent, do we want our kids to war over this stuff, or should, what to do with the beloved family cabin? Or are we going to figure out for our kids and set it out? Hey, this is the way it's going to happen. And don't just tell them. No one remembers anything. And the way they always remember it is in their favor. Yeah, I remember that. Dad's going to give it all to me, right? They all remember that way. When you write it down and you have a good operating agreement for the family cabin, it's going to help a lot. And it's going to help not pass any problems down. The other
Right.
thing that happens with the family cabin is on that first pass, when dad and mom pass it to the kids, that was pretty easy. They had four kids, and now four people are negotiating this. But on the next generation, it's now 36, right? Or whatever the number is, right? And I've seen that too. And so you have 36 people who all want to use the family cabin, and
All want to use it on the 4th of July.
right. And they're all going to go up there. Come on. People are fanciful about the ability to solve that problem with that many personalities. It's just not going to happen.
Another thing I've heard is that sometimes maybe the business is worth $10 million. They die and there's four heirs, and they want the business to continue. Maybe they're going to actually have a partner take it over. So maybe it's worth 10 million. There's two partners. So the one dies. Now, $5 million of the valuation, they want to pass to the family who's not going to run it. But what company has a 10 million valuation has $5 million cash sitting around? None.
And then if you burden that company, if you say, hey, I want to be bought out, Wayne, you're my brother. You have a $20 million company, $10 million company, whatever, that you're now running, and I want my half. So go ahead and either sell the business, Wayne, or give me my half. So you're going to have to take a line of credit? Come on. And you just sunk that company.
The debt service on that is huge. Just probably going to put it under. What I've heard is there can be a simple solution of insurance. The business takes out an insurance policy. It's not going to be super cheap, but when that person passes, now an insurance company is going to pay for that inheritance. The business continues, but it's going to be a lot cheaper than servicing that debt on the back end.
Right. And if you plan it far enough in advance, it's not that insurance won't be as bad as one would hope. But you're right. Insurance is one practical solution. There's a family in the valley. This family has owned a business for 100+ years. Kid you not. and the business has been going on here in the Valley. And that, could you imagine 100 plus years? And how do you deal with goodwill business? That, how do you value that? One solution: insurance policies. You're 100% right. Frank,
Yeah.
you get the business. Wayne, you get policy 1. Julie, policy 2. Bob gets the Porsche. Or we could just restrict it and say, hey, you're going to share in the dividends.
Right.
Problematic too, because you got one person who could be awarding himself handsomely, who's running the business, and then have fewer dividends. But
Right.
it's a solution.
So one of the things I heard in one of your podcasts was estate litigation is suing yourself, because so there might be a $10 million estate, but if you litigate that for 10 years, then you've spent all the estate. You
Yeah.
could spend $10 million in 10 years on attorney's fees. It's possible.
Oh, easy. Litigations that lasted 6 to 8 years. Not very many, but a few that were that complicated. They go up on appeal, they come down, or the assets are incredibly complicated, or international issues can drag out forever. You have a business asset, and the business has a valuation of $20 million. Now you're stuck paying taxes on that. And we
Right.
all know that a valuation on a business of $20 million, I suppose you can go out and get it, but that's really not as easy as people think it is.
Well, I've recently learned that of businesses that try to sell, only 10% actually sell. So even though you've got a valuation, getting that sale, and then if it's an after death kind of sale, the value, it's not selling for top dollar, it's selling at fire sale.
That could be too, right? And that will go into your state return. We have $12 million right now under federal law, and anything above $12 million gets taxed at the estate tax rate. And the estate tax rate is astronomical. And if you have a $20 million business, you're going to get half of that $8 million, $4 million you're going to have to come up with for taxes. And your business is illiquid.
You can't sell the factory and have the business keep running. That's all the time we have for this episode. Thank you for joining us. This is Wayne Carroll, joined with Bob Sewell on Leveraging Inspiration. If you want to contact us, Bob Sewell's can be reached through the website davismiles.com, and we'll put information in the show notes at leveraginginspiration.com. Thanks for joining us.